Hi everyone, Natalie here, Only One United. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching last week. But we're talking about a different topic today. We're talking about the Reds, the ones that we all love here. Well, pretty much apart from Flo, but yeah, I think me, Nam, and Mark, big Red lovers. But it's good to have another voice. But yeah, I'm just going to go around the table like I did last time, and just let everyone introduce yourself. So, Nam, you're the first person on my screen, so just tell everyone a bit about yourself and how long you've been supporting United.
Yeah, I've been supporting United. I think about around 18 years or something. I got into it because of Wayne Rooney and have been supporting the women's team for about since 2019, basically first season in WSL. So yeah, been a while now. Same kind of results, but still holding on.
Yeah, no worries. And Marc Henry, for
Yeah.
people who don't know you or what you do, introduce yourself, let them know.
So I'm Mark. I'm secretary of the supporters club. I've been supporting United more years than I want to mention. Been watching the women's team since 2018, since the first game at Lee against Reading. Yeah, massive Red. Love the team. Love them all.
Yeah, no worries. And Flo, you're pretty much the odd one out, but it is sort of a bit about your article as well, so definitely go and check out Flo. So tell people about yourself, what you do, Flo, and I suppose how you've come to being on a United podcast and I suppose why I approached you, etc.
So yeah, my name's Flo. I'm a football journalist. I cover Benzam women's football, and I cover mainly the WSL for the Athletic, but bit of England, bit of Champions League as well. And obviously known Natalie for a while through just obviously following United's progress, and also I chatted to you, Natalie, a lot of times about like the way fandom is evolving in the WSL and things like that, but less actually about United as a whole, more about, the landscape of the league and things like that. But after I wrote that piece about kind of where United are on their challenge to really try and break into the Champions League sport and also obviously challenge for the title, you reached out and asked if I want to come on and talk about that, which is great. It's really, 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 really great to talk to you guys and talk to the fans. I'm a QPR fan, so haven't had quite the glories of you guys being United fans, but I do understand the place you're in now. I think it's difficult for both the men's and women's teams because there are slightly different trajectories, but there's still obviously a lot of heartbreak, disappointment and frustrations around at the moment. So I can definitely sympathize with that. Maybe not the United that I grew up watching, but the United now is a bit more relevant to me and my experiences.
No, definitely. And talking about fan culture, there should be something coming up in the next week, so definitely keep your eyes on our channel, because I've heard big stories. But anyway, by we're here to talk about Man United, and I suppose I just want to go to Mark, just break it down. I don't know if you've read Flo's article, but it is that kind of thing. I mean, Vicky's even saying it. It's where we're at now, where we want to be. I mean, what do you think to the start of the season? I suppose you're like me, been watching since 2018. If you had told us in 2018 we'd be here again, here with Marc Skinner as a manager, not Casey and all that kind of stuff, what would you have thought?
Yeah, I suppose for a long time I couldn't really see anyone else but Casey being the manager. And it was a hell of an adventure. That, let's face it, the away days we did in that championship season, you and I will always talk very fondly about being some of the best ones we ever did with the women's team. It's completely different now. With regards to Mark, I think he's coming under a bit of a cloud because Casey left with uncertainty behind her. We all saw the way she left, and she said her goodbyes. I think he came in. Being honest, I don't think he was a lot of the choice, the first choice for a lot of fans. But he's come in and he started this season. Up until the Chelsea game, he hadn't lost a game in the WSL. He hadn't conceded a goal. So for me, he was probably exceeding my expectations. Chelsea was obviously a tough game, and whatever you can get from Chelsea, you take. I don't think the game was as good as people made out it was. I think it was a pretty even game. I think Chelsea had the better chances. And if we would have had a striker, a clinical striker, then that game could have been very different. But overall, the start in the WSL, taking away what's happened in the Conti, I'm happy about.
No. Nam, what do you feel? Do you feel the same? Do you, even suppose from your perspective I know you're going into, started watching in 2009, Casey, and where we are now, do you think that we'd still be like talking about potentially finishing top 3? You're still confident on that? Like, what's your feelings? Just, I suppose, after watching that, because that was a reality check. I think you even wrote it like that, Floyd. It's sort of, we did so well. And then it was just like, all right, yeah, this is where we are kind of thing. What do you think now?
Yeah, kind of agree with Mark there. I also, even though I've been watching since 2019, but for me, when Casey left, I was like, I can't really imagine any other manager at United. I mean, when it comes to like, did I think that we would be competing for top 3 even after Casey? I was very confident we will be and we should be, right? Like a club like United shouldn't be dependent upon one particular manager to get them success. When it comes to this season, though, I think the fair assessment would probably be we've won games against teams we should anyway be winning games against. We've lost games in Conti Cup against teams that we should be winning against. And Chelsea, personally, I didn't expect us to win those games because I was a bit concerned with a bit of a performances, even in the games that we won. So I wasn't expecting us to win those games, but I thought the score line will be a little bit more competitive. And I mean, if it comes to top 3, right, the formula has been the same in the last 2-3 seasons. You try to win all your games against the rest of the 8 sides in WSL, and you try to get like 3-4 points at least against the top 3 sides. So at least with that formula, we're kind of on track. I think it's going to be really important, the game against Arsenal, because they're missing a lot of players. And I think if we can go and beat them, I think till now we would be on track. And, if we don't beat them, then it's kind of the same. You're not just under Marc, but even under Casey, we kind of had the same issues and we're still having those same issues. So it would feel a bit like the team has stagnated a little bit.
Flo, I'm just going to come to you because you did write about, we've been here multiple times, even under Casey, we've been here where we was at the top and this and that. And, what do you think? You're an outsider. We're watching it, I suppose, week in, week out. You do, like you say, you're doing all different of WSL. You probably see a lot more of City and Chelsea and Arsenal. And when we play them, it's not that I was confident. It's that I don't know. I just expected, I don't know. And I think Vicky sort of summed up the way I felt. It's just getting to the point of deja vu with some of the performances. And I think your article didn't say that, but it just, it's like you say, when are they going to get to that point where they can do it, where they break the duck? And I feel like so I've always said it's a mental thing. But I'm starting to worry now. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just that we are. I mean, another journalist said to me, you're the 4th best squad, kind of, maybe not got 4th, 5th best budget. So why are you expecting more? But then like you said, it's Manchester United. So I just want to hear your perspective. You've heard from the other 2 from me.
I think there are some positives when you put it into the context of how new the project is as a whole, right? I didn't really mention this in my piece, but I still think there is something to kind of look at with success. The fact that in a very short space of time, they've gone from a team not being established to now pushing for the Champions League. That in itself is pretty impressive. Obviously, with some good investment behind it, that doesn't just happen overnight. So I still think that's really positive. And the fact that you're having these conversations about being disappointed about not necessarily being like a title challenge is pretty remarkable. So I think you have to kind of put the context around that. But at the same time, I think with the backdrop of City's struggles as well, I think this season, more than ever, is a huge opportunity for Manchester United. And that's why I think this season, it would be even more disappointing if they didn't pip City, presuming it's City, the next best challenge for that 3rd spot. I think that would be a massive disappointment because I think, yes, budget-wise, they are definitely the fourth team in terms of budget. And, if you looked at the table that way, it would make sense. But I also think it's not just about that. I think the advantage that Arsenal and Chelsea have, and this is where United will come unstuck in those games, is you've got a coach in Emma Hayes who's been there for a very long time, with a core squad group she's worked with for a very long time, an identity, a DNA, a team of winners who've been to big finals, multiple titles. Arsenal, they've had this the second season with their manager. They've still got a core group there of being at the club for a very long time, a few new signings, like everything just gels a little bit better. And I think that's the issue for United. It's like, because of Casey Stoney leaving, it's like they had to go back to the beginning again. They had to reset. And that's definitely, I think, hindered their progress. I think maybe we wouldn't necessarily be having as much of a kind of like, right, what next conversation if perhaps Casey Stoney had stayed and gone to the next stage of her plan. I think it is hard, I think, for a lot of WSL clubs who are falling outside that top two to work to get the buy-in, I think, from a lot of their parent clubs about, like, this is the budget we need. This is how we compete with the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea, not just to get new players, but to hold on to players. And obviously there's the question around Alessia Russo and her future right now. And I think that's going to be a big one for Manchester United, is because getting a player like Maya Letizia in the summer was huge, but it's like holding on to talent is going to be a big one as well. And if the club don't invest, that's going to be the next big challenge. And I think City are having that now as well, with a lot of the exodus in the summer from them. Is like, even though I think from the outside looking in, you've got these amazing sounding squads and it all seems glamorous, like sometimes it takes more than just a few good players to create a team that is going to be winners. But I still think there's so much to be positive about. But like you say, I think it's frustrating when you feel like you're getting so close, but it's that same thing, like just mistakes in games, just making those defensive errors that they've made quite a few times now in those big games. But I think the real test will be Saturday against a injury hit Arsenal team, with, obviously, I know you guys are going to travel well for that away section, and it should be a brilliant atmosphere with, I think, 35,000 now expected. That is a huge opportunity. Win that game and all these conversations might disappear. And then the Manchester derby, obviously, at the Etihad on 11th December. Those are two games that would transform this whole narrative that we're talking about United not being able to match the big teams. Because I think it's City they've come closest to, beating them in the Conti Cup, coming so close to beating them at Lee as well. So they're not far away. It's just that last thing that winners have.
I mean, Baraf, Casey, I hope I've said it wrong. Other clubs have started their women's team in and around. We've reached higher success. We have to reach top three with our squad. I totally understand where you're coming from. I think I spoke to Michael McCann, who's saying Juventus started a year before us. And I know we're talking about different leagues, but if you look at Levante as well, they've made it. You look at Roma now, they've won a trophy. These are maybe not big men's names, but you're seeing that they're doing it. And I know our league's different, and I'm not going to get into a WSL, which league's better kind of debate, but it is that thing. And I think that's what a lot of fans that I feel. I'm not sure what you think, Mark and Nam, but that's what I feel everyone's feeling. And, Vicky's saying you think he has a capacity. Taylor has won trophies. Go on, Mark.
When it comes to playing the top three, I think Flo is absolutely right. You look at beating City and Arsenal. Chelsea, for me, are just too far ahead, as Flo said correctly. That squad's been together for more years than our team's been actually in existence. So we have to go out and beat the likes of Arsenal and City. But as Nam said, and rightly so, we also have to beat the teams in and around us. Where we were stood at the Chelsea game in the terrace, someone said there's a mentality block. They can't seem to play against these big three teams. Now, I don't know whether that's true. That's what someone said. However, the more this goes on, the more you're actually going to have to go, yeah, potentially there is something there that's stopping us playing against these bigger teams. Now, we beat Arsenal at League behind closed doors. We beat Arsenal in the Conti Cup. So we can beat Arsenal. It can be done. It just has to be the right time for us to do it. And look, I think we'll come away with 3 points on Saturday. I am that confident. But it's me. I'm always that confident.
I'm not that confident, but I just want to say Susie's saying something here. We perform well against other teams, but then what happens is we concede late. So if I think back to the City game at LSV, last minute we were 2-1 ahead. I know 2-1 is one of them scorelines that every time you score, it is going to be. But this is where I come back to mentality. But I think the best performance, other than beating Arsenal when there was no fans, but the best performance I've ever seen in the WSL was against Arsenal, was last year at Boreham Wood, and we absolutely dominated them. I mean, we should have been 3-0 up by half time. And I think we look at these games that we say we should have done this, we should have done that. Tooney should have scored, would have been 2-0, walked out there 3 points. But then we didn't. One mistake, like Flo says, gives the ball, Vin Miedema plays it through, bang, Blackstone, yes, 1-1. And they're celebrating, we're crying. And we're thinking, oh, wow, they're celebrating a point. So, yeah, you can see that kind of, we are catching them up, but it's then when is it going to be, we're there, we've stopped this, we've stopped conceding that, Vic's worrying, we concede 1 goal and collapse. Go on, Flo, go on, and then I'll bring
No, I just want to jump. Ken in the chat put something about playing it out from the back, and I think that's a really good example of how the kind of like focus for so many teams in the WSL about those like big, top 4 games. I think it is really hard for some teams to prepare for it if your fixture list has been top heavy like Manchester United, because they would have played all their games so far and be used to having so much more time on the ball, and having to then adapt into a game against Chelsea or a game against Arsenal on Saturday where they're going to be pressed really high, they're going to be under pressure, and you're going to make mistakes. I think that is one of the biggest challenges for United. I think it's adapting to those situations, because there's so many, and obviously we do still see upsets in the WSL. It's not like they never happen, but it is really rare, and when they do happen, it seems like this crazy world of ed. But I think it's hard for those teams to adapt when they almost sometimes like coast their way through games and have so much time and are by like have such an advantage and are so much the better team, then they do take their eye off the ball, and then they have to find a level and move the ball faster. That's a challenge, not only because like the quality of players sometimes, but also just because you're not used to it. Like so far that season, it's not that they can't do it, they just haven't done it. And I think that is a massive challenge for a team like Manchester United, just to get used to playing a certain way in those big games.
Mark, I knew you were going to say something as well, Flo.
I think for me, and I said it before, if we had Viv Miedema playing up front for United, this conversation might not be happening, because we haven't got that prolific striker. And I love Leslie. I think Leslie is an absolute talent, but she sometimes might have to be a bit more greedy and take the ball and just take a shot instead of playing it out. Look, yeah. I think the way we're playing right now, we will be in the top 3. I really do. I think we will be there. And I'm we can talk about your Champions League and all of that, but I think this season we have turned the corner. I think the squad is better. We've got a bigger depth. So I think it's there for us this season. We just have to give it a little bit of time.
What I want to talk about, you talked about, and I'm going to come to Nam, and then I'll come back to everyone. And listen, guys, get in the comments. I love it. Likes, subscribes. This is your show as well. Vicky says, compared to other teams, are they doing enough year in, year out to close the gap? And you talk about someone like Viv Miedema, and I want to bring it to another Arsenal striker that I know that we could have got. But then it's talking about budgets again. Blackstenius, that was for me the one that could have changed it all. I know we're in for Bunny as well. Talk about us being in for Ford. These are all names that are that top level, that are that one that you want to be. And whether we look at it in terms of, if we had it, yeah, we need someone to eventually take that risk. But I think as well, United need to take that risk and just go all out for them, because they're there if you want them, in my opinion. But I just want to, I suppose, as well, not just this, but, I mean, you're just saying the same thing, invest more, bring in good players, take it to the next level. But I just want to talk about the game that we play, and Flo talked about it being quick, and I just feel like, I don't know if you think this, Nam, you can jump on the last point I said about Blackstonius as well. But for me, I'm thinking about Jade Moore. I would have played. I know I'm not saying we have to play defensively and negatively, but that's how Casey did used to play. And I just feel like, yes, we didn't have Honor and we didn't have Lucia in that game, and they would have maybe done a bit better. You know, it would have been more pace on the wing and it could have caused them problems. But against, you know, an Arsenal, a Chelsea, City, I don't care. If we're going to play away, I would rather sit back, take the pressure a bit, and then bang, you've got your Lucia, you've got your Leah, you've got your whoever, Tooney, you've got your fullbacks who are going to overlap. Go like that. I don't know. I don't know if there's enough adaptability. I mean, just, I suppose, what do you think on the points like that now?
I think when it comes to the style of play, the biggest difference between Casey and so basically since Marc has joined, right, there's been like this theme and this narrative that, you know, he inherited a team which wasn't his. It was even last summer, all the players were kind of signed by Casey already. So he came in, he had a very specific style of football that he wants us to play, and he said about that in various interviews since then. And we thought that, you know, once he kind of tries to get the players that he wants, we will be playing that system and we'll start seeing results come from that. Uh, I mean, I think we've signed like 9 or 10 players under him in the last 2 summer transfer windows. Uh, Two of them were short-term deals, so you know, Signebrun and Diane Calwell. So they've kind of left. But of the players that remain, you would have expected that, you know, the way we play uh, or the team that we put out, it would be more of Marc's team. But if you look at the team that we put out against Chelsea, 9 of the 11 players were Casey Stoney players. So if it's a very specific style of football that we want us to play, you know, play out from the back and so on, why is it that even now most of our squad is kind of still the same players that we were having under Casey? And I think we've signed a lot of players, and I think there was a comment here which said that we've signed some good players, but we haven't signed like the really, really good players. I think Maya has been like the signing of the season for me. But I do think if it was Casey instead of Marc right now, we would have still signed her because she was the most obvious choice of a fullback or centre back, a young fullback or centre back in WSL. Uh, so for me, this is a little bit confusing because I kind of expected that, you know, 1.5 years in, we would have players who would be playing that style of football. You know, we would start seeing, you know, even at least in terms of top 3 teams, I would see something different. There would be some different formations, there would be some different tactics going game from game. But what I see is that it's basically more or less the same kind of. We set up the team the same for all the games. It works against some of the teams. It doesn't work against the top 3 teams. And I think we haven't had the adaptability to change the starting 11. You know, to take the tough choices and be ruthless about team selection. Uh, we've seen a lot of players who've not done really well, but they still start anyway. And we used to talk about this quite a lot in the Casey, that there's a lot of favoritism as well, and she doesn't make changes. She doesn't make changes often, and that was something that I was expecting. You know, that now that we have a bigger squad, we will be kind of addressing that. So, and you know, we talked about Arsenal signing Stina Blackstenius, and why is it that we're not signing players who are of the very top level? If you look at our attack this season, and Marc said in one of the interviews that this summer was all about building the attack, and in the future transfer windows, we'll try to build the midfield and so on. So effectively, this is like more or less the finished version of our attack. And if you kind of look at all the goals that these players had scored in the previous season, we still don't reach the. So in top 3, if you look at it, all the top 3 in last 2 seasons, they've scored at least 60 goals. We have scored 44 and 45 goals, which means that right off the bat, we need 15 extra goals. So you could either go and get 1 or 2 really good players who can make up that delta, or you go out and get like 4 players who will kind of chip in with the goals. And we've gone with the second approach. The problem is those players used to play full time all the matches in their previous clubs, but they're not going to get the same time. There's going to be a lot of rotations. So you can't expect Rachel Williams to score 4 goals that she did against Spurs last season because she's going to get very minimal game time. Uh, I would have kind of personally, I would have preferred if we had, instead of signing 4 players, we would have spent the budget, go all out, get that really one good striker up front, get that really good winger. And, I know it's risky because they can fall, there can be injuries and so on. But I think these are some of the gambles that we have to take if we want to get in top 3. Because right now, the kind of squad that we have, starting 11 wise, I don't think there has been a lot of improvement from the last couple of seasons.
I also think, just following that as well, Nam, is that I think there's been perhaps the strange recruitment in terms of buying players that fit the way that Skinner wants to play. I think Rachel Williams being a prime example of that, the way that she was used for Spurs, who try and score on the counter attack, score from set pieces. That's her bread and butter. That's perfect. But for the way that United want to play, it's not. That's going to be a beautiful Ella Toon through ball into a runner, or someone putting a ball in from the wing, or someone cutting in from the wing. It's not. It's going to be more direct, and it's not probably going to suit the way that she plays. And I think that is something that they probably haven't thought. No, it's not like they haven't thought about it, but it's some of the recruitment doesn't quite match up, right? If we're looking to the bench now to work out how we're going to change a game, yes, throwing Rachel Williams on for 10 minutes might throw a cat amongst the pigeons, but in terms of having that developed idea of a game plan and a style of play that needs to run through the entire squad, and you need to have players that can all play the same way, whether they're coming in or it because of injuries, like you said. So I think that's what's tough as well, is that United haven't quite got the depth, the right kind of depth. They've got a decent sized squad, but it's just the right kind of depth that they need with a number 9 like Alicia Russo, who has had really bad injury issues over the last 2.5 years. So you need more than the depth that they've got and the quality that they've got as well to cope with that.
Yeah, go on, Mark. I can see.
Yeah, I think the other side to it, which
I was going to say the other side as well, but go on.
Well, probably I'm making the same point. The last performances, they weren't great, and when you look at it, the energy's not been there. Now, I think we've not had Honor, we've not had Lucia, who give us an enormous amount of energy going down the right hand side. We've stuck in Thor as a centre back, who is a fullback, who isn't a fullback for me. And I don't like centre backs playing in fullback roles. It's just me. I don't think it works. However, she's played better on the left hand side as a fullback than she does on the right. So I think right now, if we get Honor back, who gives us an enormous amount of energy, if we get Lucia back, who gives us the same amount of energy, and she has a great partnership with Honor, they have this, the way they understand each other, they play together, obviously, for Spain, then that's slightly better for us. I think under the last few games, without Honor, we've not been the same team. So I think we've lacked it. I wouldn't say we've lacked energy. I would just say we've not got forward quickly enough.
Honor is just, I know Flo was saying about Leslie and wanting Leslie to sign a contract, but I'm openly admit it. I've said it multiple times, and I don't think it's going to happen. But Honor is, for me, a bigger player than Alessia. I'll say it, a bigger player than Tuni. Honor is everything. Everything goes through Honor. She is, look at her. I think there was first 3 games, she had 4 chances created and 2 assists. She's just unbelievable. She is just different kettle of fish. But I just wanted to come back to our signings, and I just want to talk about Leon. And it's not criticising, but Leon and even Nikita, there were 2 players that I didn't think were of the level. Nikita's come in and has been scoring goals, but Leon, she has been doing well. And before the season starts, she's been scoring regularly for Canada. And I just feel like what Nam says, she's coming in and she's being asked to have an impact with 10 minutes to go, or have an impact with 3 minutes. And I just think we're not going to see that. And I'm not, I don't want it to turn into a whole bashing show of Mark. And I can see people asking, what's his style of play? And we'll go on to that. But I suppose, Nam, what do you feel like? Because I think me and you were mostly underwhelmed, I'll say, by the signings. Rachel Williams, Nikita Paris, Leon was one. Even some people have said that probably, Lucia could be of a better standard. I think Lucia's been good, but I think then when we have seen Leon, when we have seen her, Brighton, she was in that position, she was running through, and I just feel like, either not coming in at the right time, not playing with the right players. I think when she plays with Leah further forward and maybe tuning behind, she's a bit better, but when she's having to play with, Stanley on the left wing, her on the right wing, and Rachel Williams, it's just all muddled in. And like what Flo says, it's not really a style. So just, Nam, your thoughts on Leon, and obviously we want to see more of her. We want to see more of Keats. Whether we do see more of them both with Lucia being back, I don't know. But those are two.
I had really positive feelings about Nikita Paris going to United, and I think some of her that England international window before the season started, she obviously scored. She looked good, and I thought it might be a good opportunity for her because it obviously didn't work out at Arsenal, and she never really got that much game time. And although she hasn't been great over the last couple of years, I thought she would start more games. And I actually was a little bit disappointed that she didn't start as much at the beginning of the season. But I still feel like it could work out in that deal. I think the Leon deal, was made less sense for me because another player that struggled with injury over the last couple of years, like she hasn't managed to complete a season really in the last couple of years. And for what United need reliable squad players. They need players they know are going to be fit, and you've had issues with that ever since they went up to the WSL. So I just think there's just been some odd choices, like looking at names who maybe have like experience on their CV, and you think, okay, well, they played for this club, played for this club, they've won this international. But when you actually dig a little bit deeper, does that make sense to pick them up? And not quite sure, really, from my point of view.
Sorry, I'm on the thing. But no, Mark, you take it up or Nam take it up.
I think when it comes to Leon, I expected her to come on earlier against Chelsea. I think it was a bit of a weird one. I don't think anyone was expecting her to leave it till 3 minutes till the end. However, I need to see. She played really well in pre-season for us. So I think she just needs that break of that run of games, and I think once she gets that, we'll see what she can properly do. With regards to Nikita Paris, I was seeing, we all saw what was written about her in the summer. Some of it, I don't think was fair at all. I think she's come in. I think she's coming to a club where she's going to get the game time, and she can prove. And she can prove people what they've said, maybe rightly or wrongly, but she can give us that experience. And I think that's what we need, is experience. And I think that's where we've been lacking for so long, is having that bit of experience in the team, because we are such a young team. We really kind of don't remember it as much.
I think for me, I think the attackers that we have signed, a lot of them are very similar players. And I agree with Flo. I don't think if we needed all of them together in one transfer window. So, I mean, if you look at all of them last season, I think Lucia scored 12 goals in the Spanish league, but that was across 30 games, right? Paris obviously did not have a great season last year, but if you have fans of Leon, I think much better team than us, and there were some areas of concern which they had raised, which I think were, that she needs a lot of chances to be able to score those amount of goals, and we're usually not the team or the same level as Leon, so we'll probably not be giving those kind of chances to her to score again. Leon, I think, again, I completely agree. Compared to Hansen, is she really bringing in something that much extra, or should we have basically retained Hansen, who's been here for a while? Rachel Williams, for me, did not make sense because I understand that Mark said that it's experience that we need. The only thing which I will say is that you also need the right kind of experience, and this is nothing against her, but I mean, she's done really well for herself, at different clubs. But is that what we needed at this point in time? Because I remember that we signed Tobin Heath and Kristen Press to bring that winning mentality, to bring that experience. And we saw that, right from the first match that they played for us, we could see it in action. We could see that they came in and lifted the entire team up. My issue with recruitment really has been that why are we not signing more players like Ona Bate, like Alessia Russo, Hayley Ladd, Jackie Cronin, Mary Earps? It seems like in the last couple of years at least, and not just under Mark, under last summer when Casey also recruited players, we haven't really signed those kind of players who are going to come in and immediately become the core of the team for maybe the coming 3-4 years, whatever. We've seen to kind of go uh, for squad depth. And to be honest, the reason I wasn't surprised that we didn't beat Chelsea is because the team wasn't built with the intention that we will regularly beat the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal in the league. The team this season was built with the intention that we will beat all the other teams quite comfortably and then take our chances against the top three, which is exactly the formula for top three, right? And at least according to that. So when there was a huge backlash when we had a really poor performance against Leicester. We won 1-0, but I thought it was one of our worst performances in recent years. And Mark kind of came on and he said that last season we would have lost this kind of game. And I was obviously very offended by that. Like, I thought a United manager should not be saying that. But from his perspective, the team is doing exactly what he kind of constructed it to do. We are still beating teams like Leicester, even if we're not playing well. The Chelsea result, we've never beaten Chelsea, but over the course of the season, if we're able to take some points, then that is it. What I really think that, and this is not just Marc Skinner, but the club as well, we have to get out of this. The reason for mentality is, if the ceiling of your ambition is getting third position in the league, how are you actually going to progress? I think for us, we should be building a team which is good enough to win the league. But it's been 4 years and we have been trying to get into Champions League. That is the absolute top level ambition that we have. And if the club itself sets those ambition for themselves, how can the players kind of go beyond and then perform much better than what is expected of them?
100%. I just want to say a lot of people have said bang on about what you've just been saying. I think it's bang on as well. Someone's just been asked, and you talked a bit, Nam, and I know Flo's going to have to go, so just react, Flo, and then leave if you want, or leave if you want now, and it's up to you. But I want to say thanks for Flo for being on anyway. But people are saying, what's Mark's style of play? And I'd watch it and I'd see it, and I think sometimes it's better than Case, but sometimes I don't know. It's just a bit chaotic, like we have said. But then we talked about Tobin. You just talked about Tobin there, and that's when, in my opinion, I think we had the best squad. We had Press, Heath, we had Leah, the ones that we've got now. We had LJ. That's when I think we had the best squad. And I know you've talked about bringing in people like Honor and Jackie and all these, and yeah, I would like to see more of that. I think it's to do with where you're recruiting. Obviously, Honor, no one really knew about her, and we plucked, well, you knew about her if you knew about it, but you know what I mean? You plucked her out, and look at her. She's now one of the best right backs in the world, in my opinion. And that's just from playing at Levante. So there are those little talents out there where you can go look at where we picked up Lucia from. So I think you can do that. I mean, I would have picked up Gio, who's playing at Everton now. You know, these kind of players, you can easily get them. I just think it's like you say, you talked about sort of Hansen and Leon, and I do think, I love Kirsty, OG21, got a thingy, but for me, I just think Leon is an upgrade on Hansen. Leon is an upgrade. Paris is an upgrade on Hansen. And that is, I suppose, slowly we're seeing that little upgrade. And you're talking about the players that are there. But I think Maya is one that's, I suppose, a gem, like your honours. But like you say, she's in plain sight. And we were blessed that she chose us. But it's like you say, in plain sight. I do think Mark, he does like players that have that experience of the WSL some way or other. You know, even Diana, who came in, was, you know, Irish, had experience playing with that kind of thing. And I don't know if that's now a thing that they're doing, Man United, but I do think they need to look further afield, a bit more, stretch it out. And I know it's hard because there's these new COVID these new rules with the Brexit and stuff. That makes it hard. But yeah, Flo, go on before you got to go.
Yeah, I'll just answer that quickly, but thanks a lot for having me, guys, as well, and thanks for everyone in the comments. It's been really interesting to hear from all you guys. Yeah, I think like everyone's analysis has been pretty spot on, to be honest. I even, obviously I think it's hard sometimes for fans because you get so kind of like wrapped up, and it's hard sometimes to like see everything else that's going on. But I think even you guys see in the context of the league, you expect a little bit more in the context of everyone around you. I think when someone's asking about Marc's style of play, I do think is much more possession based than Casey Stoney's ever was. Casey was very direct in the way she played, but Marc looks to always play it out from the back. He wants his team to have a lot of the ball, and you are going to get a lot of the ball against 8 of the teams in the league, and not so much maybe against 3 or 4 others. So maybe it's about creating a bit more of a plan B approach. I mean, Casey's team were very successful in a bit more of a smash and grab and a bit more counter-attacking football. I don't think Marc Skinner's United have quite worked out how to have that as much of a killer instinct, and sometimes that's about having the quality of players that can provide you that in those special moments, those Tobin Heath-like players who just can kind of pull things out of a hat. But I also think it comes with confidence. I think they're a very good footballing team, and you can see that in the way that they play, but it's that confidence and calmness on the ball that his sort of style requires, that I think some of the players who are a bit younger as well don't yet have. And I think it's also a shame when you lose a player like Aoife Manu, who has tons of experience, and lose her to injury. And I think that has a massive knock-on effect as well. Like, I think having Mary Earps as a leader is massive, and that run through the whole team. But I think they need some of that constant reassurance and that experience and playing together as a unit, because there's been a lot of change over the last couple of years. But yeah, I mean, hope that's been useful to the person that asked about style of play. But I think I think there probably needs to be a bit more of a plan B for them, because Casey's United, although they weren't necessarily maybe as interesting to watch as Skinner, who maybe playing nicer football, they were a bit more efficient because of that. And I think whenever you are going to play it out from the back and have more of the ball, you're going to get caught out more as well. And that's what's definitely happened over the last couple of years. And in terms of going forward, I think lots of teams are struggling with being able to compete with the salaries of Chelsea and Arsenal, and that includes City as well. Like, even though City are a big club, Arsenal and Chelsea are just that much further along, just have that much more budget. And some of that is about, someone mentioned Polly Bancroft obviously in her new role, and part of that is about putting pressure on the board and getting more money out of them. It's not as easy as just saying, here's a massive salary. You've also got to build everything around the club to make a player want to come. And obviously you've got the fact that those teams are going to be competing in the Champions League. They've got 2 very experienced, high-profile coaches who've won a lot. But what United have and should try and sell as, a big part of the project is they're Manchester United, which is, they're one of the biggest clubs in the world. And also for a lot of the players who maybe might be thinking of going to an Arsenal or a Chelsea, what United have is that if they come, you're probably going to play. A lot of those players who sign for Chelsea or Arsenal, they're going to be a squad player, and they're not necessarily going to get a lot of game time. But we've seen teams lower down the table now pick up players who dodged, think about Daly going to Villa, who could have probably gone to one of those clubs, but decided to go for a team lower down the table because they wanted to start, because they knew they were going to fill a role that team desperately needed. And that's not necessarily always about money. People want game time. And I think United can tap into that as well and look around what other teams aren't managing to fulfill by having such big squads. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. And
No worries.
Maybe see some of you on Saturday at the Emirates. And good luck for the rest of the season.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers. I just hope you're all right, guys. Just staying on, doing a bit more, because I did disappear. But I do want to touch on the Polly Bancroft thing, and I suppose what Flo has just said at the end in terms of playing. And I feel like that was a big factor with Maya. And I feel like even you look at someone like Katie Robinson, who's just played, And I had to say, shout out to Serena, because I think when we started watching Marc, wasn't it? It was very much, if you play in the top 3, you get in.
Yeah.
Even I'm seeing Swedish strikers, they've gone to, I can't even remember what her name was, Andeval. She went to City. She doesn't play, and she was half the player that she was in the Euros, and that's what they're blaming it on, the fact that she's not getting game time. So I do feel like we have that chance, but I just, maybe think that not just with the funds, but with the scouting, with stretching out, with, I look at what West Ham have done, the way that they buy always in the China, Japanese kind of market. There are players there. There's Yuki, who's just, obviously they've just sold for a lot, but then they've brought in another fullback. There's a Sahi who was playing in the German league. And I know it, like I said, I know it's hard with all these Brexit things now, but it is, the opportunities are there. Because if West Ham can get 2 or 3 players from China league, then, like she said, it's Man United. But go on, Marc, what do you think?
I think when it comes to with Polly, I think we've got to give her time to get settled into the position. It's, she's uprooted her family to move up to Manchester. We've got to give her that little bit of time, and hopefully she can get about doing the business. With regards to the scouting and the recruitment, if you look at that photograph with Marc and all of his backroom staff. Now, when you and I first started watching it, there was a kit man, there was a doc, that was it. You look at that backroom staff now, it has grown and it's multiplied. So the club are doing more, but they also have to do more on top of what they're doing right now. And I think everyone has said that. With regards to recruitment, look, Nat, you and I and then Namrata, we all remember we've had some really, I want to say, underwhelming transfer windows under Casey. I don't think the one where she brought in Tobin and Kristen, would they really have come to us if it wasn't for COVID? I mean, that's a question we always have to ask ourselves. I honestly think that this summer transfer window has been our best. We've got rid of some players who were never going to play again under the manager. We brought in that blend of youth in Laetitia, who is, in my opinion, one of the best English defenders, young English defenders out there. You brought in Nikita Paris, who is a proven WSL goal scorer, but she's also got the experience. You bring in that Lucia Garcia. The only question mark out of everyone he's brought in is Tuankara. But I saw her play in the Euros, and she did all right. So the squad, I think overall, what we will see over the next, I don't know, maybe we'll see something in January. I don't know. But over the next summer, you might see some of the people that Casey brought in having to go because they're not going to get the game time. And I'm not telling anyone to be patient, because I can't do that, because I'm the most impatient person. I want United to be winning the league now. That's what I want. However, we're not going to get there right now. I think, for me, where we are with recruitment and the backroom staff and the scouting, it's better, but it's got to get better yet. And I think that's the next stage for me, is going to the Middle East and finding these little gems, like everyone has said. But I agree with what you said, Nat. I think Maya is that little gem we found right now. And the fact she chose us over the other clubs is a huge tick for us, and where she sees the project going.
Nam, how do you feel? Because I know for me, it's just, I don't know, it just feels same of the same. I know Vix posted something earlier, and I do agree, we do need to be better, and we can't, that's what I think a lot of people are frustrated about. We can't just sit and say, oh, it's great. And for me, it's not the best transfer window. It's a good one. But like you say, we're not seeing enough of, maybe Paris, like what Flo says, we're not seeing enough of Leon, definitely. Like you say, Tuankara, she come in, she was, if anything, you look at it on paper, she's the best one, really, because, French, she's captained the side, she's played in the Euros. Obviously, we knew Maya was what it was, but, if you looked at her record, played Champions League before with Atletico Madrid, it's one of those ones. And, we're not seeing that. And I think it's frustrating for people. It must be frustrating for the players, because obviously they're not probably getting the game time that they would have thought they would coming into a new team. I know it can take time, but it's just, I don't know. I think for me, the best transfer window is when they brought in Honor, Fuso,
Stanley.
Leslie, Stanley, and then obviously the Americans. But I think even if you take the Americans out of that, that was still, for me, one of the best ones. Maybe it didn't fill every position, but in terms of those players that are like bang, bang, that's what it was for me. And even the very, very first one, potentially.
I think I want to touch upon something that Flo said, that, if you don't have anything to sell to the players, you sell the brand that is Manchester United, and you get a lot of players that way. I think, but though, if you look at the players who were United fans and probably joined United because of us being United, the last one was Wilde Boyerisa. And we've kind of seen, I honestly don't have an answer why she's playing, but she's not playing. But, she came in, she had offers from City, I think. She trained with she trained at home. She did not basically join any other club for a few months because that was how much she wanted to be at United. She hasn't got the chances yet. Uh, Another good player who came to us, obviously, was Jackie Gronin. I think her race is ran. She's kind of left, so I don't want to touch upon that. But that's the kind of player that's already left us. Another United fan that we got was Alessia Russo. Has done pretty well. Again, not sure if she's going to stay or not. So if you look at the players, the really good players, if they're going to look at, and again, as you said, Tunkara, in terms of the reputation, at least, she was one of the bigger players that we signed this season, and she's only played in Conti Cup. She hasn't played in WSL as much. So if you're an international player, who has options to join these big teams, and then you look at United and you look at the game time of these players who are already at United, it doesn't make for good viewing, right? And we still play the same team that we played under Casey in our first season in WSL. So even though we brought in players, we haven't particularly played them in the right. I don't know. We haven't really got the best out of them. Ona has come in. She's played. She's been played. She's been really great for us. Another one who wants to leave. Obviously she's a Barcelona academy graduate, so it kind of makes sense she wants to go there. But for me, the really concerning thing is that we sign these players, but then these players then want out, and the players that we're kind of left with, it's again we have to kind of sign these players of very big quality. And I think, just like fans, I kind of see even amongst players that maybe a lot of them might not be up for taking the risk like Jackie took. And so for me, recruitment, it's the thing is that if you're stagnant for a long time, it's not just the fans who get frustrated. It's also the players who wouldn't want to sign, especially the ones who've already signed and not doing well, and not really through any fault of their own, but just because they're not really getting game time.
Mark, do you want to touch, and then I'm gonna do an Arsenal preview. Are you just happy to go on to the Arsenal?
Look, I think the one thing I love about all football fans is that every single football fan has an opinion. And what's great about it is that Manchester United, whether it be good news or bad news, we're always going to make the headlines. So when you look at the women's side, you'll have people who like players and you'll have people who dislike them. But for me, what I like about what we're doing right now is that we're quietly going around doing our business, and we're signing some players with potential. Yes, there are players there that I don't think have been given a fair chance yet. Nam mentioned Vilda, and I think Vilda, when she's played, she's done really well. But what I thought was unfair about Vilda last season was that when Jackie was injured, she was probably one of our better players, and yet when Jackie came back, she's get dropped for Jackie. Now, look, I mean, I don't make those decisions. I don't get to choose the team, thankfully. I don't have that kind of pressure. So there are players out there who probably could do more, I'll say. I think some of them have done enough to start games. But But when you look at the squad compared to what it was last season, the squads are, 10 times better. So I think there's players there that need to either understand that this is now a squad game and they're not going to get the playing time, or understand that if they're not happy about it, then leave. Now you and I and Nam, we can all remember back in the early 90s when Fergie had Dwight, Andy, Teddy, Ollie. You never once heard any of those four going, "Oh, I'm not playing, I'm off." They stayed because they believed in the role. And all you're hearing now is that players are not happy because they're not playing. Look, if they can't get excited to come to Manchester United, then ultimately, I know this sounds harsh, don't come. Because if you're only coming to try and make yourself, if you're coming to make yourself better, then I understand it, come. But United are bigger, and that's exactly right. United are bigger than any player. And that's it. We've all got this rubbish going on now with Ronnie. Now, you and I were being at Old Trafford this season. We were watching him when he made his debut. The guy's ruined his legacy. What I don't want to happen for any of this women's team is for them to ruin their legacy by kind of like saying, well, we're not playing, so we're off. I don't want them to ruin what could be potentially their careers by doing that.
Yeah. Afro Brown saying it's not a better, just calling a spade, not a big spoon. But listen, it is what it is. Like you said, everyone's got their opinions. And for me, I think women's football is so, it's not like you say in the 90s when Premier League 20-game season. So you know that everyone's going to sort of get those chances. We play 12 games in the league. And it is a kind of case where players do need to play. Players do need to get minutes more than cups, kind of thing. Because if we went far in the men's team, we'd be there you go, 22 league games, men has 38, and then I suppose we've got a Europa League, something that we push for, something that we say we need. Yeah, we have 2 cup competitions, but it looks like we might be going out of the country, so we won't even go far in that. It is. I get what you're saying. If you want to leave. So Alessia. Honor the 10 players who are out of contract, leave. But I do think there is a case for some players, because obviously the World Cup's coming up. We know with the women's football it's just too much, and I don't want to go into that in terms of international break. But it is very much like that, and there's not a lot of money about. So when you get it through either club, country, you sort of have to take it, because that could be the difference between you in a house, or that could make a difference if you were full-fledged international to then not. So that's what
the point for me is about when we brought in players. You look at Tooney, she's just signed a new deal, and it's not the news that most people wanted to the first person to sign a contract. Look, I want Honor to sign a contract. I want Leslie to sign a contract. And all I can know is that there must be something going on behind the scenes. But Tooney's seen something that she's come back from the Euros, and the club has said, "Do you want to extend?" And she's gone, "Yeah." Now, Nam's right. Nam has said, about Honor, she's a Barcelona graduate. Would I have any issues with her going back to Barcelona? Would I be upset? Of course I would. But would I understand it if she goes back? Yeah, of course I would. It was like Ronnie when he first left. He said, "I only want to leave to go to Real Madrid." And that was fine. The problem with the women's game is, and I think you said it spot on that, is that the league is so stop-start. There's too many international breaks. So teams can't get together. They can't play fluidly because we didn't even, we had pre-season and then we went straight into international break. We played 2 games. Guess what? We went into another international break. For me, the league has to grow. There have to be more teams in it and less international breaks.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sorry, I just put my camera on. I just want to move on though now. I know Nam probably, but we could talk about this and then we go down this path and then we go down that path. I don't want to talk about the league growth because I think you'll be here for another hour. I just want to do a quick whistle stop Bang, bang. Guys, get in the comments. What do you think? Arsenal, what do you think your squad? What do you think your first 11? What do you think your scoreline? How do you think it's going to go? Bang, Nam. Let us know.
I think we're going to go with most of the same team that we've started this season. I think hopefully Ona is back. Russo's going to be back. I would, and again, I was one of those people who wasn't really in favor of Nikita Paris signing, but I think right now, I would, based on the performance she had in for England in the last match, I think she deserves to start. She was really, really good in that game, and I only watched the second half, but I think she was playing with that confidence. And when you have, these international breaks, at least if a player is playing with confidence, you want them to take it back to the club. So I would want her to start. I think Leah kind of selects itself. I'm not really sure about midfield. For me, I think we're probably just going to start with Lad, Zalem, and Dund. But I don't think we have that many options. I'm not going to touch the midfield part because it's too. I think it's a big, big problem area for us.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, I don't think we have that many options realistically of players who have started in the previous matches. It's the midfield has been more or less the same. Backline more or less the same. I really, really hope that we win this game against Arsenal. I know they're going to be playing against Emirates, so even if they have like 3 or 4 players out injured, they will at least have that spirit. They would want to win this match, so they will come out all out against us to try to win that. We usually don't do well in these pressure situations, but I think this is like a golden opportunity for us to really take that one step towards top 3. I'm not very confident about it this time, but I hope, like, I would just say like 2-1. I don't know to which side, but I hope it's United that kind of win that match.
No, I mean, there's a point here. Mark, I suppose, what do you think the score will be? Lucia or Paris on the right? Deb's gone Paris. Honour's very important. I'm not going to skip over this comment, but I will come back to it and just going on to the Paris. Lucia won Paris. Celebrate kissing badge. Someone needs to pick up Manham. Yep, that's the problem. We don't pick up players. But go on. Who do you think? What team do you think you're going to see? Nam bottled it. Go on.
So I think I agree with Nam. I think the back four will probably be Emery in goal. Obviously, I think we'll have Honor back, Mayer and Millie with Blundell at left back. Now this is where I'm going a bit different. I think Jade Moore might start. I just think she gives us something different to Hayley Ladd, but can also do the same job as Hayley Ladd. So I think Hayley Ladd. Then I think it'll be Toon and Zalem as normal. I do agree. I think Nikita starts with Lucia on the bench, potentially with Russo and Leah. However, for the scoreline, don't put me on the spot.
Spotlight, boom, go.
2-1 United. I'm going to say 2-1 United, whereas Nam said sat on the fence. She said 2-1. I'm going to say 2-1 United.
And listen, I don't think I'm going to not ignore you. I'm going to come on to my point, but listen, just watch him start. I don't think Staniforth will start. I don't think she made that much of an impact when she came on, to be honest. I really like Stani. I think she's been given a 1-year contract to sort of fill in that gap. Maybe while waiting, I don't know. But, like I said, I really like her. But can I see her being here 5 years? Well, she's about 30 odd now. Can I see her being here past this 1 year? Probably not. If she is, fair enough. But yeah. But listen, why don't you talk about Leicester and Chelsea? They were clueless on the field. Back passes. Going to continue that. That'll hammer us. I am worried. What I will say about the Leicester, I am worried in that it was a big pitch and I think they struggled. I agree with what Nam said earlier on in the pod. It was probably, in my opinion, I think that's why because it was just so lethargic and I feel like they struggled to move the ball quickly enough. And I don't know if that was because of the size of the pitch or what, but I am slightly worried. I think if this was at Boreham Wood, I'd be a bit more confident. We know how to play on Boreham Wood, that kind of thing. With it being, and Arsenal played a lot at the Emirates, so I'm bit worried at that we don't really play on big pitches a lot. And then, when we did play Everton, I think it was a Jackie kind of player that did control it. I'm with Deb. I want to see Ladder more. I just think that I don't know. I just feel a bit more secure in that. I'm not saying, I know people be like, oh, you hate Zellum. Okay. But I just think even if we played Ladmore and Zellum, I don't care. I just want to see. I think that double pivot anchor, I don't care. Because I want to win. I want to get points. I don't care if we play beautiful free-flowing attacking football. I don't care. I just want to get the points. And I just feel like for me, I like to see that. Obviously, you're Mary, Honor 100%. If without Honor, I can't. Millie, Maya, Hannah, hopefully as well, because I feel like when Hannah has come off or not played, we've not looked as good. I feel like if we lose both Honor and Hannah, it's not great. Paris or thing, I don't know. That's what I'll say. I do not know whether even he plays Paris as a 10. I don't know. I would go Lucia and Leah, or even Lucia, Paris, and Russo. I don't know. Maybe bring Leah on. But yeah, for me, Vicky said it here. Playing at these big stadiums is a different approach, and that's where I think, in my opinion, I'm not the coach. I'm not nothing. But I'd play that double pivot and then have your quickest players running those channels with the fullbacks backing them up. For me, I just think Honor is going to be essential in this. And then, I take a 1-1, I take a 2-1, I take a 2-2. I think this is the best chance, though. And I do think we need to stop being silly and making silly mistakes, and whether it's a mental block or what, but everyone wants Champions League, so it's time to show that you want it, because I feel like they've lost 2 of their centre backs. The Kim Little might be out as well, so that's basically their core. So if you can't, it's the best time to beat them, really. You know what I mean? I think City, even though a lot of people are very critical of them at the start, they have come into it. And they will be better. And I think that City will be a tougher match potentially than the Emirates game. I think this, even though the standard might be higher, I think this will potentially be the better place to take points. I don't know. That's my opinion.
I have to agree. I think playing at the Emirates, then playing at Old Trafford, then playing at the Etihad, these are the things that, when we first started watching it now, we would have said in 4 years' time, 5 years' time, we'll be playing 3 games on the bounce at the Emirates, the Old Trafford, and then at the Etihad, we would have gone, bring it on. And now this is, most of the girls would have played on the big stage over the summer. This is now no different. So they can't use the pictures. They can't use the pictures as an excuse, because we all have to play on their pitch. So now is the time. And look, I'm one of these people that sits on a coach and I'll contemplate anything and I'll go, right, well, I'll take a draw. But actually, with the injury crisis that Arsenal in, if we walk away with a draw, to a lot of people, we might as well just lose to them. So that's why, for me, we're going to win, because a draw is going to be, to some people on social media after the game, it's going to be as bad as a loss.
I think I'll take a draw. I think the draw last time was as bad as a loss because of the way it happened. I think if we scored a 95th minute equaliser, I think people would be very happy. I think if we're dominating like we have seen, and then we throw it away like we have seen, then it will be as bad as a loss for people. But it seems to be when we do draw, it's more us throwing it away than clawing it back. But if we can claw it back like we did, Tobin, draw like that, take it. Take a 2-2 after being 2-0 down, things like that. Depends that for me. But listen, guys, hit a like on it. I want to thank everyone. Mark, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks, Nat.
No worries, Namrata. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Nat.
No worries. Guys, hit a like in, put the comments in. I can see the comments coming up. Listen, all opinions go. So, we try to get across all of them. Whether you like this or like that, I don't care. We'll speak about it and we'll say what we think. So, thank you. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks, guys.